This is Nia Perry, founder and CEO of Gradient Global Collective, and you're listening to the Gradient Global Collective podcast. Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in. It means more to me than you could ever imagine. If you're listening for the first time, welcome to the show. This podcast is the first product of my media company, Gradient Global Collective. Our mission is to spotlight the innate brilliance and moxie of Black women entrepreneurs globally and add incomparable value to their lives and businesses. I launched this business just simply because there was a lack of representation for this specific group of entrepreneurs in traditional business publications, right? So like Inc., Forbes, Fortune, just have not done a great job of representation. And that's just really a little bit of background about what this business is grounded in, right? And typically I interview women from really around the world on this platform. It's been an honor and really a pleasure to speak with these amazing women. But today, I wanted to carve out time to speak to you directly, my listener, okay? Because I love you, of course. So there are no guests this particular week, just me and you. And the reason why I did that is because, number one, it's my birthday week. Hello. I'll be 36 years old on June 30th. And I am so blessed to finally be doing work that I feel passionate about. I really can't say how much of a change that has been for me personally. You know, I've always admired people that feel like, OMG, I love my job. You know, wow, I love what I do every single day. You know, and when I would hear that from friends, from colleagues, you know, I was always so genuinely happy for them because I imagined that feeling is special. But that was really never something that I personally experienced until launching and grinding away with my beloved brand, Gradient Global Collective. I've always sort of known, you know, my potential and would be frustrated time and time again in positions I held within corporate America, even though I still strive to find jobs time after time. And things were just not going in the direction that I felt like they should be going with my career. And so it sort of let me down on this path of trying to find jobs. But ultimately, I was not successful in some of those positions because I really just feel like my path was to do something differently, right? So even with businesses that I've had in the past, because quite frankly, to date, this is my fourth business. Can you believe that? Gradient Global Collective is my fourth business. My other companies have been an event planning and design firm. I had a handmade jewelry business where I really started sort of out of the trunk of my car, if you will. And that really led to structuring that as a real business. And more recently, a marketing consultancy. And I really refer to marketing as my first love. Although, you know, really when I think about it, dance was my first love when I was a child, but marketing is pretty neck and neck with that. When, as I've grown, as I've matured, marketing is just something that I've loved to do. But many of the services that I provided in my marketing consultancy, I didn't really necessarily have a true passion for them. But I knew that they made money, right? So you do what you have to do as an entrepreneur. You don't always get to do what you want to do all the time as an entrepreneur. So I did what I did in the marketing consultancy to make money, right? So I've loved marketing, but I was doing things that I didn't necessarily wasn't all that passionate about, right? And though I still had talents for, and still do really have talents for all of the businesses that I mentioned above, event planning, design, jewelry design, event design, that sort of thing. I never had a really deep-seated passion like I do for this media venture, right? And I think I attribute that passion to maybe two things primarily, okay? So number one, this business is really far out of the realm of what I thought was possible for me, right? So why? I think Gradient Global has really stretched me in areas way beyond my comfort zone. It's sort of strange how that works, right? So I've never really considered media as a place for me. Except when I was in, public relations and I was sort of pitching clients to outlets that, you know, magazines, newspapers, sort of traditional media sources at that time. Many moons ago, I did that. But this business has sort of forced me, if you will, to do new things, right? Speaking to you on this podcast is a sort of a newer venture for me. And really, it has emboldened me to have courage in areas which I really never knew were possible for me. So that's sort of the first way. And then the second way that sort of reason why I attribute this passion for this business that I have now is really serving an audience of Black women entrepreneurs globally that has sort of been in my heart forever. Like I could never get away from this sort of tugging that I would receive in support of Black women. I didn't know really what that meant. I knew that I wanted to serve our community in an interesting way. I didn't know what that would look like, right? So, and I've actually documented this in a blog post that when I was launching this business called Welcome to Grading Global Collective. And I'll put the link to that on the show notes to this particular podcast. But I was really afraid of being misunderstood when I was launching this business. But this support of this really thriving audience is really about providing support and representation to an underserved and undertapped audience. And it doesn't mean that because I'm doing the good work that I didn't have trepidation. And it's funny, in a recent interview that I did with Beautifully Said magazine, I say this, I said, I had to sort of get out of the shadow of protection and believing that people would think negatively of me for saying that I wanted to support Black women, right? But we deserve it. And it really is an honor for me to do so. Because whether people believe it or not, some people can take major offense to really serving a niche audience. But as a lifelong marketer, I understand the statement that there are truly riches in the niches. So, and that if you can narrow down your target or core audience to really who will consume your content, benefit, for whom you could add the most value to, if you target in on that audience, you will succeed, right? So my audience happens to be Black women entrepreneurs globally, and there's so much substantive data that supports that, right? But that doesn't mean that I still haven't experienced a bit of the trepidation with sharing with people that I want to serve Black women in particular. And though the numbers don't lie, as I mentioned, there was a 265% growth rate. And I've seen up to 322%, right? Growth rate of Black women entrepreneurs from 1997 to 2015 in America alone. And I knew that I would see, even though those numbers were there, the truth are in the numbers, I knew I would receive some sort of pushback, or so I thought. And I recently had to face this hypothesis in my hometown of New York City. Shout out to Brooklyn. Brooklyn in particular is where I was. So sort of on a whim, right? Just a bit of a backstory on that. On a whim, I applied for this sort of business accelerator thing that I saw online, right? So I'm like, okay, what's the worst that could happen, right? So I've learned since the beginning of this startup that I would have to take chances and really put myself out there in ways that were necessary, albeit uncomfortable, right? So that's just something that I knew that I had to do. And so applying for this accelerator was something that was right along on those lines, right? So I applied with zero expectation. I was applying just for applying's sake to say, okay, put it out there and see. And lo and behold, I was accepted. Gradient Global Collective was accepted to the program. And it sort of reminds me of a quote by the legendary entrepreneur, Madam C.J. Walker, where she says, "Don't sit down and wait for opportunities to come. Get up and make them," right? So just know that, though you're making things happen, you're striving, you're trying to do more, you're reaching for greater, you're expecting bigger for your life, that won't come with challenges that you really could never have imagined for yourself, right? And so, of course, I experienced that time and time again with trying to get to New York for this particular competition. I was accepted, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to press my way. So the challenges were there, right? Even up to almost missing my flight by no fault of my own, and having literally to run through the airport as my name is being called on the loudspeaker, like, "Nia Perry, final boarding." It was insane, right? But I made it. So I made it all the way to New York. And even being home, it was like experiencing the city for the very first time. I had taken the train for the first time in at least 17 years, right? So I'm from Brooklyn and went and left for college many moons ago. And I had, even having been back a few times since then, I guess I had not been on the train, because I realized when I was on, I'm like, man, it has been a really long time. And when I thought about it, I'm like, it's been at least 16, 17 years. How crazy is that? And really just the whole experience of being in New York sort of tested my faith, patience, and fortitude. But I made it, and I was there by the grace of God. And I'm very grateful for that. So go back sort of to the accelerator experience, right? I am somebody that likes to prepare. So having been prepared really above and beyond, like I always do, it really served me well. It was a blessing that I was able to take time to really focus on what I had to do to go into that event, having my numbers in order, knowing my stuff, and being just like, as I mentioned, just prepared, right? And because of that, I had the pleasure of meeting so many diverse entrepreneurs and experienced mentors. It sort of reminded me how New York is so different from many other parts of the world, in that, it's really, truly a richly diverse community. So, being at that event, it forced me really to speak boldly about my support of this thriving community of entrepreneurs, which of course are Black women. And I am so honored to not only have been met with understanding by this diverse group of people, but I received tremendous positive feedback from people who did not look like me, people who were not in the same lane of business, who may not have ever had any experience in the media realm, but they just got it. They just totally understood. And really what that did for me was validated that not only am I on to something huge with Gradient Global Collective, but that I am uniquely equipped to bring this big dream to fruition, right? So all in all, I'm really proud to announce that it was a successful event for me, and that this media startup of ours, Gradient Global Collective, was really selected as a top 25 finalist in the eBay Brooklyn Startup Cup Extreme Build a Business Weekends. Whoop, whoop. Shout out to me. Holla. The resistance I felt getting there, right? So I'll talk about all the challenges that I experienced, sort of making my way, pushing my way to get there, was really only an indicator that I had to press my way. I was so cognizant that there was and is still so grand of an opportunity, really beyond anything that I could imagine for my life and for this growing business of mine. So I'm so happy that I was able to press my way in spite of it all. So quite frankly, I'm proud of me, okay? And guess what, listener? There's nothing wrong with saying that. I should be proud of me, right? So I've worked really hard. And quite frankly, I bust my tail every single day. And only really I know, well, maybe my husband knows also, but only I know what sacrifices I've made to bring quality content to you every single day. My personal motto is to strive for excellence, not perfection. And I'm really so proud to present the entrepreneurs to represent the entrepreneurs that entrust their stories with me every week and their brands with me every week. And it really is my responsibility to ensure that I continue to operate in excellence. not just on my behalf, right, but on theirs as well. I take it very seriously, and it is not something that comes easily. I make sure that I work hard to represent their brands exceptionally well. So I dig into this topic of excellence a bit more on an interview that I recently did with Michelle Gomez on her platform, the Networking with Michelle podcast. I discuss more of the why behind my beloved brands of Gradient Global Collective, the global reach this platform has really had. And I'm really proud to say that we've truly had sort of massive global reach in US, in Canada, in Haiti, in Trinidad, in Asian countries like Singapore. Really interesting, diverse listeners for this particular platform. I'm really proud of that. And really the list goes on, right? So on Michelle's interview, which I'll also, of course, link to the show notes for this particular show, I discuss also a lot of the behind the scenes detail of this business and sort of where it came from and that kind of thing. So definitely check that out. And really the most important thing about that particular interview, that the title is Brand Excellence, and really nothing makes me more proud than that. So be sure to check out that interview in the show notes. And one thing I'm really excited on my birthday week to present to you and announce here to you is that I am now offering affordable marketing coaching to grow your business. So I sort of mentioned a short time ago that I had a marketing consultancy prior to launching this media business, right? But what I found was that at that time, I was able to support more corporate entities and larger companies, but not necessarily you, the solopreneur, really trying to get your arms around this whole marketing game, right? So there's so much competition in the marketplace, no matter what industry or what segment of business you're in. You know, it can be hard to really differentiate your brand. So I am super thrilled to introduce affordable marketing coaching packaging to elevate your business and drive revenue. So make sure you visit gradientglobalcollective.com/marketing-coaching. Of course, I'll have that link as well to the show notes. So if you love this brand and like how I present it to the world, let me help you elevate yours as well. And, you know, as I mentioned, you know, marketing is my first love. I've been doing it for really over 15 years in myriad capacities, PR, traditional marketing, digital marketing. So, you know, I'm happy to bring all of that experience to you at a very affordable and reasonable rate. So check that out. And also be sure to, you know, connect with me and you know, ask me any questions that you may have. You're also welcome to email me on my business email at info@gradientglobalcollective.com with any questions that you may have around that. And so on my birthday week, you dear listener, I want to leave you with a gift by way of a quote by Napoleon Hill, right? Author of Think and Grow Rich, and just really has such substantive and quality books and information on how you can impact and your mindset can impact your growth and what you desire for your own life. So this quote goes, "When your desires are strong enough, you will appear to possess superhuman powers to achieve." I read that again. When your desires are strong enough, you will appear to possess superhuman powers to achieve. And what that means to me is whether you are currently an entrepreneur or you aspire to be an entrepreneur, you have everything inside of you to achieve that goal. As I mentioned, when I was sort of pressing my way to get to the eBay Startup Cup event in New York, I experienced so much resistance. I felt like things were just fighting against me, right, to get there. But in spite of that, I was determined to make it. And not only did I make it, but I crushed it. I know that in my heart. So just know that you can make it, right? And resistance is par for the course. Keep your head up, keep working, keep making it happen, and really believe in yourself because you have that superhuman power inside of you, okay? So that's all I have for you. Short and sweet. It's my birthday week. I wanted to come and talk to you directly. I haven't had an opportunity to really do so because for me, it's about getting these entrepreneurs in front of you so you can learn, you can grow, you can be empowered by their experiences no matter where they are in the world. There's so much value in listening to these amazing women doing awesome things in their community, in business every single day. All right. So if you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher for Android, all my Android users. And of course, if you love listening to the entrepreneurs we feature here on the Gradient Global Collective podcast that just happen to be Black women entrepreneurs, do me a favor and also rate this show. Thanks so much in advance. And I really appreciate you all for listening. And again, it means more than you could ever imagine. Peace. Thank you for listening to the Gradient Global Collective podcast. Follow us and talk to us on Instagram @Gradient Global.